las personas que están en espera. Solo quería hacerles una pregunta. ¿Quieren que esté habilitados los micrófonos para los asistentes o ustedes quieren habilitar los micrófonos o cómo hacemos?
Eh, Hola, ¿me están escuchando? Buenos
Sí,
días. Perfecto. De pronto mejor que tú habilites los micrófonos y aprovechar este momentico para revisar si están los oradores conectados.
sí, claro.
Ay, muchas gracias.
Ya, si te pones el micrófono, cámara, todo bien. Ok. Sí, era que estaba bien. Sí, listo, dale, pues. Me dices algo.
Muchas gracias. Ay, pero está.
Buenos días, Natalia.
Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Mucho gusto. Soy Nicole Boyer del Departamento de Inclusión Social.
Un gusto.
Sí, justo estaba conversando con Juan David, si es que les parece bien que los asistentes no puedan activar el micrófono por sí solos, sino cuando levanten la mano para evitar cualquier interferencia, si están de acuerdo. Y solo ustedes y los speakers tendrían como que el permiso de activar y desactivar el micrófono.
Perfecto, te agradezco mucho.
Perfecto. ¿Tienen tal vez el nombre de los panelistas para comprobar que ya estén en la sala e irles ingresando?
Ya te cuento.
Ya, gracias.
Si quieres, cierra los micrófonos para que nos escuche. Ahora sí. Hola, entonces los speakers son Miriam Deniul.
A ver, Miriam. Ok, ya está, le voy a ingresar. Listo.
Wimonrad,
Monrad, ok, también está.
Peter Andrews,
Sí, lo vi por aquí. Peter Andrews, sí, aquí está.
Leonard Morrissey,
Está como Len Morrissey, supongo que es él. Sí. Ya.
Kevin Barton,
No. ¿Cómo era el primer nombre, perdón?
y finalmente Robert Hull, ¿está conectado?
A ver, dame 5. ¿Cuál me dijiste el último nombre, perdón?
Robert Hull,
Robert. Ya, y el antepenúltimo, perdón.
Kevin Barton.
A Barton no lo veo. Ah, no, ya aquí está. Good morning to everyone. We want to remember you that we have interpretation, English and Spanish. You can switch to the language that you prefer on the Zoom platform.
Nicole, ¿la traducción simultánea ya está activada también?
Sí, ya está. Patricia, si nos puedes ya ayudar con la interpretación, por favor.
Good morning. Good morning.
Y finalmente te agradezco que nos ayudes con la grabación del evento.
Sí, listo, ya está. A lo que termine el evento yo les envío el enlace para que lo tengan. Entonces, no sé si desean que ya deshabilite la sala de espera y vayan ingresando, o no sé si quieres hacer coordinaciones con los speakers antes.
Sí, una coordinación muy sencilla. Muchas gracias por asistir a este webinar. La idea es que se utilicen respuestas cortas, eh, estén tranquilos, es un webinar, es un espacio amigable, queremos compartir experiencias, conocimientos sobre el futuro de la seguridad de producto y no, pues muchas gracias por estar presentes. Nicole, si quieres ya puedes dar acceso a todos los eh, asistentes.
Listo, ahora los dejo ingresar.
Y también permítele el micrófono y acceso al moderador Juan Pablo López.
Listo.
Bueno, buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos al webinar virtual hacia un futuro seguro, innovación en políticas de seguridad de producto y recalls efectivos, organizado por la Red de Consumo Seguro y Salud, por el grupo de alianzas estratégicas de la misma red, de la Organización de Estados Americanos. Vamos a empezar este evento con unas breves palabras de la superintendente delegada para la protección al consumidor, la doctora Natalia Alvis.
Bueno, muy buenos días o tardes para todos. Muy bienvenidos a nuestro evento. Muy felices de estar con ustedes y acompañarlos en el día de hoy. Para la Superintendencia de Industria y Comercio, como líder del grupo de trabajo sobre alianzas estratégicas con organismos multilaterales de la Red de Consumo Seguro y Salud de la OEA, es un gran honor contar con su presencia en este seminario web que ha sido organizado por este grupo de trabajo integrado por Costa Rica, Estados Unidos, República Dominicana y Colombia. En los últimos años, la labor de este importante grupo de trabajo ha permitido alentar y promover el posicionamiento de la red a nivel internacional como un importante referente en la materia. Vivimos en una época donde la diversidad de productos en el mercado es abrumadora y al mismo tiempo la conciencia de los consumidores sobre sus derechos en los distintos espacios de comercio está en constante crecimiento y evolución. Ante esta realidad, la protección al consumidor se vuelve más crucial que nunca, haciendo que las innovaciones en políticas de seguridad de productos y la comunicación efectiva de recalls no sean solo una necesidad, sino también un compromiso compartido tanto entre autoridades como empresarios. Así, la innovación es la piedra angular de nuestro enfoque. Las políticas de seguridad de productos deben ser ágiles y proactivas, capaces de anticipar y abordar riesgos emergentes dentro de un entorno cambiante y cada vez más interconectado, en donde el auge de nuevas tecnologías se sitúa como un desafío, pero también como una oportunidad. La comunicación efectiva de las campañas de seguridad de productos también es un factor determinante en la protección al consumidor frente a posibles daños, riesgos o peligros. La efectividad de los recalls depende en gran medida de cómo llega la información a los consumidores. Es así como una vez más las redes sociales y la tecnología juegan un papel crucial en mantener a los consumidores informados frente a los productos que adquieren. No obstante, la colaboración con las empresas es igualmente importante para lograr una comunicación fluida y transparente. Agradezco a nuestros distinguidos ponentes por su generosidad al compartir su experiencia y conocimiento con todos nosotros. Espero que todos podamos aprovechar al máximo esta valiosa oportunidad y sin más preámbulo, los invito a todos a participar activamente y contribuir a las conversaciones enriquecedoras que estamos a punto de tener. Nuevamente, bienvenidos y muchas gracias. Los dejo entonces con el doctor Juan Pablo López, nuestro moderador.
Doctora Natalia, muchísimas gracias por tus palabras de inicio para la apertura de este evento. Antes que nada, muy buenos días para nuestros invitados, así como para las personas que nos acompañan vía streaming. Y siendo así, quiero inicialmente presentarme. Mi nombre es Juan Pablo López, director de investigaciones de protección al consumidor para Colombia, por parte de la Agencia de Protección al Consumidor, la Superintendencia de Industria y Comercio. Quiero entonces iniciar este espacio agradeciendo a nuestros invitados, a los cuales inicialmente quisiera informarles un poco las reglas para el desarrollo del presente evento. Inicialmente, les voy a dar la palabra por un término máximo de 3 minutos para que introduzcan sus perfiles, así como expongan brevemente qué hace su autoridad u organización en pro de la seguridad de producto. Sin embargo, quiero agregarles una segunda pregunta, y es que nos puedan indicar cuál es la definición o alcance que tiene el producto inseguro. Siendo así, inicialmente voy a darle la palabra a los profesores Kevin Barton y Robert Hall. Bienvenidos a este espacio. ¿Tienen los audios desactivados? Les agradecemos que
See,
puedan.
is Kevin there?
Listo, perfecto.
I'm sorry, having technical difficulties. So, sorry, I'm not getting any translation. So my Spanish is a little rusty, so I'm not keeping up on what's going on here. So, but anyways, good morning. My name is Kevin Barton, and I'm the Deputy Director for the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. We are a federal regulatory agency. I'm within the Department of Compliance and Field Operations. Essentially, we oversee the investigative side of the CPSC. So people that are going out doing inspections of firms, investigations, that would be our avenue. So we have jurisdiction and authority over almost all consumer products that are used in and around a consumer's home. There are some exclusions that would be things like trains, planes, automobiles, boats, and so forth. However, if some of those items on those devices or avenues could be used inside of a home, we may have jurisdiction on those. Our inspectors and investigators conduct firm inspections at businesses. We investigate incidents of consumers who have been injured or killed. We conduct recall verifications on items that have been recalled at businesses, retailers, and so forth. We ask that they be removed or reconditioned depending on the terms of the agreements with the companies. We also conduct public outreach with our state and local partners and community organizations. Bob Hull, who will talk after me, he oversees our Internet Surveillance Unit. We call that eSafe, so that stands for the E-commerce Surveillance Analyst and Field Enforcement. And his team is responsible for all online surveillance of online consumer marketplaces. We essentially deal with the consumer to consumer or business to consumer marketplaces. Our main mission statement is to protect the public against unreasonable risk of injury or death from consumer products through education, safety standards, activities, regulations, and enforcement. I think it's just easier since Bob and I have a lot of overlap here. He'll just take the next topics that you had.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Hull, and I'm a supervisor investigator with the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. I am over the eSafe branch of or office in the Office of Compliance and Field Operations. eSafe stands for E-commerce Surveillance Analysis and Field Enforcement. So we do work online, looking to see what's out there in regard to product safety and enforcement for our agency and in support of our mission. The agency gets our information out in multiple ways. And part of that is through social media campaigns using different platforms. So we do have we have ongoing campaigns throughout each fiscal year or each year. And the campaigns, we do have a full-time social media specialist. We have field staff that share CPSC resources with social media networks. And some of the media platforms that we use Facebook, and we use Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And so we try to take full advantage of those social media platforms to get our message out in support of our mission. in regard to campaigns and a diverse population and a multicultural world, we have field staff along with our Director of State and Local Programs and the Office of Communications and Media that develop and disseminate information, free information to the public and the community at large. The field staff work in collaboration with community leaders and partners to identify language needs and then become partners with them in their communities. We work closely with populations in underserved communities, and we take pride in that. We want to get the word out to everybody. And so we work closely with these communities. They'd be multi-generational, multilingual, non-English speaking communities, and we provide workshops, presentations, and materials in multiple language. Our field investigators go out into these communities, and our goal is to meet the mission for all. And so thank you for your time today. We're excited to be part of the webinar.
Aquí viene a Robert, muchísimas gracias por su introducción. Le recordamos que este espacio es solamente un ejercicio, como su mención se hizo anteriormente, simplemente de carácter introductorio, y posteriormente a eso daremos inicio al panel, esto en razón de las restricciones de tiempo. Quisiera ahora darle la palabra al profesor Peter Andrews y posteriormente al profesor Leonard Morrissey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Andrews, and I'm the Director of Consumer Rights, Innovation and Impact at Consumers International. We are the global consumer organization for 200 plus members in over 100 countries. Now, the right to safety is a key consumer right, and for many consumer organizations, product safety was the issue that led to their creation, or indeed made them into a well-known household name to many consumers. However, despite real progress in improving product safety, challenges do remain. And our most recent work has focused on digital markets, where there is often a lack of safety and transparency found in products sold online to consumers. Consumers International produced guidelines which present global recommendations for action for governments and businesses to ensure the rights and need of consumers are built into the design of e-commerce regulations and practices. And how do we define unsafe products? So unsafe products are traditionally defined as products that pose a risk of physical harm to consumers, and that has been the focus of our most recent guidelines. However, we do recognize that digital items are stretching current definitions of product safety, with the spread of smart devices among the most pressing of these new challenges that can cause consumers harm in non-physical ways, such as invasion of privacy. And therefore, as we look at supporting consumers, protecting their rights and empowering them in the marketplace, and above all, ensuring their safety, we do need to take into account these wider considerations. Thank you.
Peter, muchas gracias. Proseguimos ahora con el profesor Leonard Morrissey.
Hi, how are you? And thank you for the invitation. I'm Len Morrissey, and I'm here actually wearing two hats today. So in my day job, I work for a company called ASTM International, and we are a voluntary standards developer domiciled in the US, but we develop global standards for over 90 different industries. We are made up of 30,000 members that comprise just about every part of the spectrum. But we have a very large platform in consumer safety. So we're very focused on consumer safety. We have activities with about over 1,500 people that develop safety standards for over 100 or so different product categories, things like toys, durable infant products like cribs and high chairs and baby gates, portable pools, and a wide spectrum. So we do this by pulling together the experts from all over the globe, and whether they're consumers, regulators, manufacturers, retailers, academia, We bring those folks together, and what they do is they come up with standards that help to provide the performance requirements necessary to provide safe products around the globe. In my other hat, in my passion job, I'm also very happy this year to be the president of the International Consumer Product Health and Safety Organization, ICPHSO. And ICPHSO is an international neutral forum for product safety stakeholders to learn, network, and share information, all for the purposes of advancing safer consumer products from around the globe. And they do that through holding conferences, power hours, webinars, and bringing all of the affected folks, whether it's the CPSC, the Health Canada. We've had regulators from Colombia, all to come together and socialize challenges that they're having so that folks can start to work on solutions. So in both of those formats, the way we reach out is by being open and inclusive for everybody. So there are no barriers for anyone to participate in either one of the hats that I wear. And we look to address emerging hazards that hit the marketplace and try to come up with solutions. And when we talk about unsafe products, essentially our focus is any product with the potential to do harm to a consumer through its normal use or through its foreseeable misuse. So there are products that are misused in some horrible ways, but if it's foreseeable, that would fall under our scope of what a harmful product is. So we're glad to be here and looking forward to being part of the discussions. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Leonard. Ahora proseguimos con la profesora Miriam Deniol y por último con la profesora Wimorat Rukawakrakul.
Good evening from Thailand. Now we're here. It's 10 p.m. Okay, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Wim, the Director of International Cooperation Section from Office of the Consumer Protection Board, Thailand. In the other hand, I work under the ASEAN Committee on Consumer Protection, or ACCP. We provide the facility for consumers to complain for any loss incurred in respect of any goods or services, and we have the authority as the policy maker as well as the sector body who regulate the unsafe product, but enforce the business to recall or ban the unsafe product from the market. And how about the unsafe product? For Thailand, we use the words unsafe goods because the Consumer Protection Act identified the definition of unsafe goods, but I think it's the same as unsafe products. And unsafe product is one that poses a threat to the health, safety, or well-being of users or consumers. This threat can arise from design flaws, manufacturing defects, inadequate warnings, or insufficient testing. Unsafe products undermine consumers' trust and can lead to accidents, injuries, or other negative outcomes. It's crucial for companies to prioritize rigorous quality control, comprehensive testing, and clear communication to prevent the release of unsafe products into the market. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Miriam, por favor. Creo que no le han activado el audio a Miriam, por favor.
Nicole, si nos puedes ayudar con... creo que ya.
Technical barrier to to unmute myself. So many thanks for this invitation, and I'm very happy to take part in this interesting discussion. So I'm Miriam Deniol. I am a legal and policy officer in the European Commission. I work in the Directorate General responsible for justice and consumers, and more precisely in the units in charge of product safety. So we deal with consumer products, excluding food and drugs. And actually, when it comes to the role of the European Commission in this sector, whether we have different roles. First, we are the ones proposing legislation. And actually, a few months ago, a new legislative framework for product safety was adopted in the EU, but I will get back to that later on. And it is also important to stress that the European Commission is not directly doing market surveillance of products. In the EU, this is done at member states level. But what we do is to ensure that the product safety rules are enforced, and we do a lot of coordination work. For instance, we organize joint activities between member states authorities to test products and to discuss risk assessments, to harmonize this risk assessment approach. We also coordinate communication campaigns, for instance, and very importantly, we manage the rapid alert system Safety Gate, which enables the exchange of alerts on dangerous products between member states. So when it comes to defining an unsafe product, well, I will a little bit repeat what my colleague said before. Under EU law, the definition of an unsafe product is really a product posing a risk considered unacceptable and inconsistent with a high level of protection of the health and safety of consumers. What is interesting is that in the legislation that I mentioned that was adopted a few months ago, there are two interesting developments. One is that the definition is kept flexible enough to also encompass digital content and software. And the second one is that it is clarified that health, when we refer to health, we refer to the World Health Organization definition of health, which encompasses not only physical health, but also mental health. So mental health risks are also covered in our mandate. Thank you.
Me encantó esa última presentación respecto a la definición de producto inseguro. Y en esos términos quisiéramos compartirles también cuál es la definición que actualmente tenemos desde Colombia en la seguridad asociada a productos. Y siendo así, la tenemos definida como la condición del producto conforme con la cual en situaciones normales de utilización, teniendo en cuenta la duración, la información suministrada en los términos de la ley en protección al consumidor y la puesta en servicio, instalación y mantenimiento, no presenta riesgos irrazonables para la salud o integridad de los consumidores. Y en esos términos, cuando hacemos referencia a la salud, no hacemos referencia solamente a la salud de carácter física, sino también, como por ejemplo, podría llegar a ser la salud de orden mental o psicológica. Entonces, muy al lugar esta última precisión que se realiza y va muy en armonía con la normativa interna colombiana en protección al consumidor. Y siendo así, quisiera ahora que iniciáramos con el ejercicio de las discusiones que tenemos propuestas para el día de hoy, no sin antes señalar, de pronto aproximándonos un poco a las definiciones que se tienen en innovación desde algunos escenarios como lo es el Manual de Oslo, algunos autores como Schumpeter, y un tercero que es al que quiero hacer referencia, que es Mario Morales, el cual señala que existen diferentes ejercicios asociados a innovación y uno de ellos es aplicado a la tecnología. Y en este caso, en lo que refiere a tecnología, innovación y en este caso seguridad en el producto, quisiera iniciar preguntando, en un entorno tecnológico en constante evolución, ¿cómo están las políticas de seguridad de producto adaptándose para abordar los riesgos emergentes, entendiendo los nuevos modelos de negocio, las nuevas tecnologías emergentes, entre otros? Para eso quisiera iniciar dándole la palabra a Kevin Barton y a Robert Hall, para posteriormente darle la palabra a Miriam Denion.
Yes, sorry. When I put it on mute, it takes a while to start going. The areas that we're specializing in and that we wanted to talk about with Bob and myself are the eSafe team that we have developed over the last several years. We started out many years ago with a volunteer group, probably 20 some years ago, looking at the internet for unsafe products, consumer products that are being sold out there. That team eventually morphed from a volunteer group to a more stable group of full-time individuals, albeit a very small group, that started participating in this, and we called that the Internet Surveillance Unit. And that operated for many, many years. And just prior to COVID, we decided to merge these fractions of full-time people that were looking at the internet and doing surveillance and doing analytical type work into a permanent team. And that's where Bob Hull came in to be as a supervisor of an organized team that had a mission, that had a standard operating procedures to go out and search on the ever-growing internet. And for us, our timing couldn't have been better for this. It was just sort of a fluke. We started this team, we rebranded it with the eSafe name, and then COVID hit. And COVID lockdown just exploded the online marketplaces. It went from people going out to the store and buying things to sitting at their computers and ordering, millions and millions of products. So we went from being a, country that was manufacturing goods to importing goods to now goods coming in from all over the world at a click of a button to consumers. So Bob took over the team, as I said, just prior to COVID. And that team has grown to, I believe now we're up to 11 people on the team, Bob. And so the commission is seeing a real need to be out and searching the internet for new and emerging hazards. So new products that are being sold out there. So we were out there looking at a variety of platforms, as I said earlier, business to consumer and also consumer to consumer platforms. Well, we review the forums, we review comments, we look for keywords and factors that could indicate that a product could be dangerous. We will order and collect samples of those products, and we'll have those analyzed by our staff in Washington. And so based on those, then our compliance team and attorneys and so forth can take proper action. There's always challenges with this, points of entry, de minimis amounts that, we have one item coming in. It's easy when you're at a port, you have a container full of product to try to seize it. But when you have one item coming in all over the place and multiple points of entries through mail stations and other means, it gets a little more challenging, and we are adapting to those challenges. But with Bob's help and the technologies that we're trying to implement, we are trying to stay as on top of this as we possibly can. And meetings like this are very important to share our knowledges and our experiences and the tools that we're utilizing. We worked with the EC on a variety of meetings with talking about SafetyGate and other things that they've have out there. And the Pacific Rim, Bob and I have been on some meetings with our partners throughout the Pacific Rim on this. I'll let Bob talk a little more about what he does and how his team functions.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Yes, it has been a challenge. It's new around the world for safety agencies to be online and to deal with the extent of product that is online and talked about. And so we take our mission seriously, as I know all of you do here at the CPSC. And so we want to make sure that we're out there capturing a picture, if you will, of what's going on, and then trying to address it as we can. And so there is a lot since COVID. It has exploded, like Kevin said. We've seen prior to COVID where we could be less than 10,000 in assignments for a year to tens of thousands of assignments in a year now, because of the growth of e-commerce and what people are doing online as far as selling and buying and then reporting what they're finding. So emerging hazards are extremely important to us at the commission. We want to get an idea of what's going on with product. And then our Office of Compliance and our staff work hard to determine whether that should be pursued and that ultimately there be a recall or a ban of a product that is dangerous to the public. So it's very important, I think. And as Kevin said, it's a learning experience. So we're sharing now with other countries with the EU, the Pacific Rim countries, also the Americas as well. We work closely with Health Canada as well, and so we're proud of what we've been able to accomplish with the resources that we have, and look forward to hearing what folks have to say today and to continue to learn. So thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Ahora le vamos a dar la palabra a Miriam Dinión.
Okay, that works now. So indeed, I can only echo what the US CPSC colleagues have been saying. The safety of products sold online is definitely a major challenge. So actually, in the recent legislation that we adopted, there are new obligations for online marketplaces and more generally for distance sales related to product safety. But on top of legislation, we are also developing tools to enable market surveillance of products sold online. And one of our flagship initiatives is the e-surveillance web crawler. What this tool does is that it scans the web to identify products that are subject to alerts in our EU rapid alert system. And this has proved to be a very effective and promising tool. And on top of this challenge of the safety of products sold online, the evolving technology environment brings also other challenges with connected products or products powered by artificial intelligence. We also see new types of health and safety risks for consumers related to that. For instance, we see that if a product does not have sufficient cybersecurity features, it might result in some cases in a safety risk. We had cases, for instance, of cars systems which could be easily hacked and turn into accidents. So what we think is important to have is a flexible legal framework that allows measures to be taken and these risks to be tackled. We cannot foresee what the next risks might be, but we need to have a flexible legal systems enabling measures to be adopted when a product appears to be dangerous. And that's what we have in our legislation. We have a general product safety provision. And in addition, in the recent legislation that was adopted, there is a clarification on the fact that the risks and specific features of new technologies must be an integral part of the risk assessment that must be made. For instance, it addresses the interconnection between products, or also the existence of cybersecurity features, or the learning components, the self-learning components and evolving features of a product. And of course, on top of legislation, there's clearly a need to train authorities to address these new risks, because this really goes to a new direction compared to traditional product safety. And it's definitely important to exchange best practices at the global level. So that's why we really value webinars like this, and also the work that is being carried out at the international multilateral fora like UNCTAD and the OECD, which enables to re-pool together the knowledge and best practices that will help regulators around the world cope with these emerging issues that we are all facing. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por esta introducción que nos realizan y podemos llegar a una primera conclusión, y es que efectivamente existen políticas en temas asociados a seguridad en el producto, pero acá viene el primer inconveniente, y ese emerge el desconocimiento por parte de consumidores frente a las políticas, actividades, normas que están siendo desarrolladas por parte de las autoridades. Partimos de que las personas que se encuentran acá son expertas o al menos conocen de manera preliminar la protección al consumidor. Sin embargo, el consumidor de a pie, el consumidor que hace la adquisición de un producto mediante canales virtuales o tradicionales, no conoce estas normativas o alcances que se le están dando desde las diferentes agencias o entidades. Siendo así, quisiera preguntarles qué iniciativas se están desarrollando para educar a los consumidores sobre las últimas novedades en seguridad de productos y cómo podrían ustedes empoderarlos para tomar decisiones informadas. Quisiera darle la palabra inicialmente a Peter Andrews y posteriormente a Leonard Morrissey.
Thank you very much. And I'm just posting into the chat our guidelines for online product safety so that everyone can see that. So in terms of initiatives to educate consumers on the latest product safety risks and empowering them to make informed decisions, our focus has tended to be on informing businesses and governments on how to engage consumers around the issues that are coming up with product safety. So we have set out within those guidelines recommendations around the provision of information from businesses to consumers. For example, at the point of sale or even before the transaction is completed from a consumer, that consumer is provided with information related to the safety of the product. And that information should include any safety certification, as well as any necessary warnings about safe use, allergens, and the minimum legal age or recommended age of the user. So really critical information that businesses should be ensuring is communicated to consumer in that journey of purchasing a good. In addition, we do ask governments to be implementing these types of requirements for businesses in the digital marketplace to ensure that consumers are empowered with information before they make a purchase decision. Now, while we do look at consumer attitudes to and experiences related to product safety, and so we note that not so recent research, but research conducted several years ago across China, Germany, India, and the United States found that 2 in 3 consumers experienced product safety issues. And we've noted that has corresponded with an increase in interest from consumers in product safety, so a demand to seek more information, but also an expectation from consumers that online marketplaces are taking more responsibility for the safety of the products that they are selling online. Our members conduct research. For example, in the UK, our consumer group, Which, found that only 20% of UK consumers were aware that online marketplaces had no legal responsibility for overseeing that product safety requirement. And then when consumers are presented with that information, 70% of online shoppers thought that the laws needed to be changed so that the marketplaces were legally responsible. And this is mirrored in studies done in other countries as well. So what we may not be doing direct consumer awareness campaigns at the moment, but what we are seeing is that consumers are increasingly concerned and increasingly expecting that businesses and governments are putting in place the right mechanisms to protect them in the marketplace. Thank you.
Leonard?
Yeah, I'll first speak from the ICPSO point of view. That from ICPSO, the whole focus of that organization is to inform and to educate, and to make sure that the public service messages get out, and to make sure that any safety issues are being addressed. Now, there isn't a lot of direct advocacy that goes to the consumer, but we do. In our 3 annual conferences, we do have connections where we co-locate them. In fact, our last international one was with the European Commission in Brussels, to try to make sure that we are looking holistically and globally at issues. And you'll see our programming has changed very much from very technical issues from many years ago to now very technology-driven conversations, sustainability conversations. So it's the place where the thought leadership and folks like the CPSC and Health Canada leadership can come and inform the general the general safety community of what the priorities are that they're seeing. From the ASTM side, we do spend a lot of time on things that affect the consumer, like the warning statements that you see. We spend a lot of time with that messaging, making sure that those messages actually resonate with the consumer, work on packaging and those types of things. But mostly we try to deal with upfront with the general engineering principles that if you see a hazard, you design it out. And then if you can't design it out, you guard against it. And then you use warnings as the last course of action, understanding that most folks don't look at those. So we try to stay ahead of the trends, looking at the data that comes in. And because we're open, the data comes from the manufacturers themselves who are working on regulations or working on a regulated product. From their call centers, they see what the issues are. We get it from our lab community, the ones who are out there testing the products and seeing what the faults and defects are, and bringing those to us to develop performance requirements to make sure that those issues are addressed. Lastly, from the consumer advocates, we have a very strong consumer advocacy group that is part of the U.S. and part of the international community that comes with their issues and make sure that the regulations that are out there actually make sense. And we do that in sort of a dynamic way. And I would say that the last thing that we do is we look at the NICE data. So NICE is a program a program that's out there that monitors incidents. That the CPSC is very strongly advocates for and responsible for, but we get to see the incident data from the hospitals. So we're able to take that data and work on solutions in our standards to try to remove those hazards. So, we just developed a standard that deals with connected products and some guidance and instructions that go back to the manufacturers as we're seeing these connected products being introduced into toys and baby monitors and other types of things, to try and address those hazards up front. So again, I would just sum it down that it's us actively working on data, connecting with partners, whether that's in the regulated community or the manufacturing community, and then also to try and be open so that everyone can get involved and help us to solve problems.
Y quisiera continuar señalando que algunos de los ejercicios de comunicación frente a estas políticas, normas o actividades que están siendo desarrolladas por parte de las diferentes agencias surgen desde entornos digitales. Y desde entornos digitales me refiero propiamente a redes sociales. Y las redes sociales pueden verse desde dos puntos de vista, sea como aliados o por el otro lado también como propagadores de información falsa, ¿verdad? Y siendo así, quisiera preguntarle a nuestros invitados qué papel juegan las redes sociales para ampliar el alcance de las campañas y en qué casos podrían estas permearse de errores al momento de ser comunicadas. Quisiera iniciar preguntándole a la profesora Miriam Deniau y posteriormente a la profesora Wim Monroy. Iniciamos con Miriam. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's me.
So it's what is interesting when we do social media campaigns, and we've recently had a very successful campaign, is to be able to reach younger audiences and to also to target specific audiences that might not be our usual targets or might not be reachable via our traditional communication campaigns. It's interesting to have the possibility to target, for instance, a selection of countries or regions, to select age groups or type of consumers, depending on the type of product we are interested in. For instance, young parents, if we have a campaign about toys and childcare articles. Actually, one interesting thing we have seen also is some brands having influencers promoting product safety messages. For instance, some battery brands have done this regarding button batteries, and they were targeting influencers very popular with young parents. And we could see really the engagement of the community was really incredible. It was really a lot of messages after this post. So it can be really an interesting tool. So as I mentioned, we have just carried out a campaign with short videos on social medias, and we've used a little bit the social media references. So with testimonies of real consumers, very short clips of testimonies of real consumers having suffered harm from dangerous products. And these short clips have been very effective to attract consumers' attention and redirect them to our website so they can see more information. And we were able to do this in different language versions and different platforms on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So as I mentioned, there have been really good outreach with these videos. And another added value is the possibility to interact, to have messages following this social media campaigns. But it also means being able and willing to engage with citizens. So it requires also resources and time, and also to deal with information saturation. But this is something we will discuss in the next question. But it's important to keep in mind, as you mentioned, that this is a two-sided coin, and that are also clearly elements to watch out for when we do some social media campaigns. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias por este ejercicio inicial. Sí, efectivamente, por redes sociales se han identificado, al menos por parte de esta agencia en Colombia, situaciones en las cuales, por ejemplo, influenciadores han podido permear de una manera negativa las decisiones de compra para los consumidores y en algunos casos en la misma comercialización de productos que puedan llegar a tener la potencialidad de inseguros. Entonces, pues muchísimas gracias por este ejercicio inicial. Y ahora quisiéramos en esa misma línea darle la palabra a Wimorad. Por favor, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. If we talk about social media, I think social networks play a significant role in expanding the reach and scope of campaigns, including those focused on product safety education. Here's how social networks contribute to campaign effectiveness. First, social networks have billions of active users, allowing campaigns to reach a vast and diverse audience across different demographic locations and interests. And the second is social networks make it simple for users to share campaign content with their followers and friends. If the content is engaging and informative, it can quickly go viral, leading to exponential growth in visibility. And the last is social platform foster direct interaction between campaign organizers and the audience. I think users can comment, like, share, and ask questions, creating a two-way communication channel that enhance engagement. Anyway, we have to be careful, I think, ensuring the reliability and effectiveness of consumer safety campaign in a context of information saturation and fake news requires a strategic approach that prioritizes credibility, transparency, and engagement. We have to collaborate with the reputable organization, expert, and authoritative figures in the field of product safety. And we have to focus on educate the audience or people rather than simply promoting a message. Provide valuable and actionable information that empowers consumers to make informed decisions. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por este ejercicio. En Colombia hemos desarrollado un concepto a partir del principio de igualdad, el cual se refiere al consumidor hipervulnerable. y una de esas subespecies tiene que ver con el consumidor con enfoque de género, consumidor fragmentado, que es el que se encuentra expuesto a temas de comercio digital, entre otros. Y esta primera aproximación la estoy realizando en el sentido de señalar que como consumidores no todos somos iguales, sino que por el contrario, por unas características asociadas al sexo, a la religión, a las características sociales, económicas, históricas o culturales, podemos tener necesidades diferentes. Y siendo así, quiero terminar este espacio haciéndole una pregunta a cada uno de nuestros invitados en la siguiente manera, y es, en un mundo diverso y multicultural, ¿cómo puede la comunicación de las campañas de seguridad de producto adaptarse a los diferentes tipos de consumidores? Tienen alrededor de 1 o 2 minutos para presentar su respuesta, para dar así la finalización a este espacio. Iniciamos inicialmente con Kevin Barton.
Yes, hello. From a field perspective for where my department comes from and where Bob's department comes from, we work with our directors of state and local, which are individuals that specialize in getting information out to the local communities. And that includes more diverse populations within the United States. So we also have our Office of Communications and Media. And so we develop and disseminate free information that's available to all through our social media campaigns or through our website and through our handouts that we do out to the public. So we work really closely in collaboration with our community partners in identifying language needs, trying to build trust within the community, working really close with populations in our underserved communities, multi-generational communities, multilingual communities, and non-English speaking communities. In those communities, we have people within CPSC that are multilingual, and we go out and provide workshops, presentations, and materials and handouts and information that are in multiple languages to help get the information out to the consumer base out there to educate and inform people. A lot of it is building trust. As being part of a federal government organization, not everybody trusts the government as somebody that is trustworthy. And so we have to, as a federal entity, build that consumer trust. And that is a big bridge to cross for us.
Bien, muchas gracias. Continuamos con Miriam Denion.
Thank you. So there is definitely an important work to be carried out on inclusiveness more generally in product safety, and we're looking now at how gender or racial biases, how we can identify such biases and overcome them. So this is definitely probably the first and necessary step to be carried out. And when it comes to really communication, well, it's definitely important to have clear messages. This is the case also in particular in recall messages, to be sure that consumers are not underreacting because the risk has been minimized or the message is not clearly communicated. And we also see really merit in having contacts at local level to spread messages, communication messages, or also education towards consumers. And I also completely agree with the CPSC colleague on the fact that multilingualism is extremely important. I mean, at the EU level, we see that English is not working for a lot of average citizens. So it's important to have also campaigns in multiplicity of languages. Thank you.
Damos la palabra a Peter Andrews.
Thank you. We see that behavioral insights show that people are more likely to shift their behaviors if they see those around them shifting theirs. So getting on board community leaders, social media influencers, as Miriam said, and making things participatory and shareable for consumers is a great way to get them engaged. Consumer groups are a trusted source of information for many different types of consumers, so working with them on communications is highly beneficial. As a general pattern, we tend to find in any intervention that the focus needs to also be on the benefits, direct and indirect to consumers. So not just thinking about the product safety direct benefit of prevention of harm, but also potential savings consumers might encounter or reducing environmental impacts can be very powerful for messaging. And we do note that the growing interest in product safety pledges across the world, which, if designed well, can lead to improvements. And we'll be exploring that in our global congress, which is taking place in December, and asking questions around are product safety pledges working? Is there a possibility of a global pledge that could work to help consumers, businesses, and governments? And communication with diverse groups of consumers will be a critical question here. So really encourage you all to participate in that and continue this lovely conversation. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Le damos la palabra ahora a Lionel Morrissey.
Great, thank you. I'm probably just going to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues here. Social media, we think, has a fantastic application to help with some of the challenges that we're facing. You know, the number one problem that we have is that, at least in the markets that we work in, there's an assumption of safety that anything that's on your products, consumers generally assume is safe. So being able to develop targeted messages that can be customized to the typical consumer helps to resonate. And as my colleague Mr. Andrews said, you know, being able to customize those is very important. Then the second thing that it helps with is that, you know, consumers generally give limited attention to these types of issues, and especially when it comes to things like recalls. It sometimes is drowned out by the rest of the things around you, and it's hard to even reach end consumers to get out recalls, as you can tell from the recall effectiveness numbers that we see. But social media helps to customize those messages for targeted communities. CPSC has done a fantastic job with their communications department in areas like furniture tip over and pool safety, where they've developed great infographics, infomercials, things like that can be used on safety to get out the safety message. And then, you know, we've talked already about the influencers. You know, people tend to follow the people that they like, and if you can link that with a safety message and get some of these influencers to be advocates for safety, as we've seen with the Tide Pods and some of those things, it can be really effective. So it's a great tool. It won't solve everything, but it's a great tool to have to leverage to try and get the word out.
Leonard, muchas gracias. Ahora le damos la palabra a Will Monrad.
I think adapting product safety campaigns to different types of consumers in a diverse and multicultural requires culturally sensitive approach. We have to understand the culture, norms, value, and preference of the target audience. This knowledge will guide the campaign's messaging and tone, and we should translate campaign materials into relevant languages to ensure accessibility and avoid using symbols or photos or language that may be offensive or inappropriate in certain cultures. I think cultural insensitivity can lead to backlash and loss of credibility. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Antes de dar cierre a este espacio y de pronto complementando la última pregunta realizada, yo sí quisiera señalar de que este es un trabajo que no podemos desarrollar solamente quienes somos abogados o conocemos un desarrollo normativo asociado a seguridad en el producto, sino que tendrá que ser en desarrollo con otras disciplinas que en principio no se encontraban tan armónicas al desarrollo de seguridad en el producto. Por ejemplo, diseñadores, psicólogos, especialistas en psicología del consumidor. Tan es así que ahora existen nuevas ramas en el derecho que tienen como propósito mejorar el lenguaje para el consumidor o ciudadano, como lo es, por ejemplo, el legal design, entre otras ramas. Quisiera presentarles algunos de los ejercicios que hemos tenido como un caso de éxito en Colombia, como lo es la presentación de decisiones eh, en materia de protección al consumidor con legal design, en el sentido que los ejercicios sancionatorios no deben tener simplemente un propósito de orden pecuniario, es decir, de imposición de sanciones, sino una corrección de mercado. Y esa corrección de mercado solamente se obtiene cuando los consumidores, los ciudadanos, conocen efectivamente de las decisiones y del alcance normativo que se le puede llegar a estar dando por parte de la Agencia en Protección al Consumidor. Eso como primer elemento. Como segundo elemento, simplemente señalar que algunos de los otros casos de éxito que tenemos en Colombia es asociado también a los ejercicios preventivos. Y cuando hablamos de los ejercicios preventivos es en el sentido de señalar de que efectivamente como agencia estamos obligados a sancionar en el caso que observemos situaciones que deben llegar a ser reprochables y por lo tanto llegar a ser sancionadas. Sin embargo, otras situaciones asociadas como por ejemplo lo es a guías de buenas prácticas tienen un ejercicio o un propósito de ejercicio que es el de la autorregulación, que debe ser un ejercicio también de exploración por parte de las agencias a nivel mundial. Como caso de éxito, y como lo mencionamos en el chat hace un par de minutos, en un par de semanas lanzaremos nuestra guía de buenas prácticas sobre seguridad en el producto para emprendedores, en el entendido de que son ellos quienes son las empresas que a futuro comercializarán bienes o servicios y por ende deben entender cuál es el alcance frente a la responsabilidad que tienen. Queremos ponernos a disposición como Agencia de Protección al Consumidor en Colombia para el mundo, para poder compartir esas buenas prácticas en el desarrollo de nuestras actividades preventivas, en ejercicio de mejoramiento del lenguaje, entre otros, para aquellas agencias o entidades que quieran conocer los resultados de estas prácticas que hemos desarrollado. Sin más, quiero agradecerles enormemente a nuestros invitados, a los asistentes por este espacio y esperando que no sea el primero, perdón, que no sea el último de tantos que seguramente se estarán desarrollando en unas próximas fechas. De antemano, mil gracias por su espacio y esperando que haya sido del agrado la invitación que se hizo el día de hoy. Mil gracias.
Antes de que se vayan, por favor, me gustaría que tomáramos una foto del evento para recordar y fomentar la cooperación entre. Si quieren, nos invitamos a prender su cámara. Dale. ¿Qué? Entonces, regálenme un segundo. Si quieren, sonrían o... Listo. Entonces, muchas gracias por su asistencia a todos, así como a los oradores por compartir sus conocimientos y experiencias desde la red de consumo, seguro y salud de la OEA, así como para nosotros desde la Superintendencia de Industria y Comercio. Es muy importante fomentar espacios de cooperación con otras autoridades y organizaciones a nivel internacional. Agradecemos asimismo este espacio a la Secretaría de la Red de la OEA, quien nos ofreció el servicio de traducción simultánea, y a la presidencia de la red, nuestros colegas de Argentina. Muchas gracias y que estén bien.
Gracias. Hasta luego.
Thank you.